Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the differences between the Scorpio Sun, the Scorpio Moon and the Scorpio Rising, so stay tuned. Now this is an updated version of a series that I made about 4 years ago, so back in 2017, but within this space of 4 years my understanding of astrology has certainly changed, and I think that I've learned a lot of new interesting things. So hopefully I can bring some new insights to the table today. Now I do recommend you watch the entire video, even if you're just here for your sun, moon or rising, because things can interlink between all three. And also keep in mind the actual sun, moon and rising combination that you have, because, well, things may change in this respect. Now, of course, I feel the need to mention that this is my own analysis, but certainly feel free to add to the conversation in the comment section box down below. Your feedback in this respect is greatly appreciated. However, before we do get started, certainly make sure that you give this video a like if you like it. Also make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to, of course, click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have some merchandise pieces there down in the description box. There's a link down below, so click on that link if you're interested in picking up a piece. Okay, so with all those introductions out of the way, let's do this. Okay, so just a quick brief overview of the sun, moon and rising. Now these three placements are often referred to as your big three within the astrological community, and many people do like to mention them as a way to really express their basic personality. But of course, as most of us know here, astrology goes much deeper than that. But I still think that learning about these three components, these three placements, especially if you're a beginner, can be really helpful. And also, even if you're just, if you're an advanced learner of astrology, I would still recommend watching, because who knows, you might learn something new. Right, so let's get into this. Let's begin by discussing the sun in Scorpio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some keywords associated with the sun in astrology. So read those keywords, take them in. But what does this mean if these keywords are combined with the sign or the archetype of Scorpio? Well, it creates an energy of purposeful and willful transformations, of suspicious, protective, yet passionate and intense self-expression. And it also creates an energy of releasing and renewing creativity, and of conscious investigation and focus, along with an energy of unshockable yet compassionate individuality and identity. But what does this specifically say about you if you were born under this sign? So meaning that you have your sun in Scorpio natally. Well, it suggests that you are intrinsically aware of both yours and other people's failures and successes, along with how everlasting and perpetual these two opposite sides of the spectrum appear to you as an individual. And part of the reason for why you're so in touch with such transitions is due to how you live through them so profoundly and intensely yourself. Though I suppose another way to word these failures versus successes is by referring to them as losses versus gains. For example, maybe growing up you picked up on how some people in life, they were struggling hugely, whilst other people in life were thriving tremendously. Maybe there were people who seemed to have just everything handed to them, whilst others had to work super hard to obtain anything at all. Perhaps to you, certain family members or friends or peers, they exemplified such qualities growing up. So maybe some family members or friends, They were living the high life with a great career and plenty of opportunity and materials, whilst other family members and friends were manipulating the system and taking advantage of others for their own selfish reasons. Maybe they were entrenched in fear or in a lot of angst. Though whatever the case may be here, it's as if you, Scorpio suns, you witnessed and observed these behaviors and these attitudes from others around you. And as you did so, you got some insight into the human psyche, okay, into the human mind. You became familiar with people's hidden intentions, along with actually their unconscious desires, urges, and drives, along, of course, with your own. Perhaps questions would arise from you, such as the likes of, can I trust this person? Or what does this person who's talking to me want from me? Or what is this person seeking to gain from this situation or this experience? Yeah, you might be quite weary and suspicious of other people due to these reasons, or because of things like money, power, greed, control, possessiveness. It's this whole attitude of you never know what a human is capable of, given the circumstances and conditions. And so in this respect, maybe you're very much aware of how humans may act or behave when, for example, they're struggling financially, or whenever they're experiencing something emotionally stressful. But just as much, you may be quite aware of how humans may act or behave whenever they're gaining excessive amounts of wealth and praise and materials and fame, or whenever they're experiencing overwhelming amounts of joy and happiness and celebration. And quite honestly, you might illustrate or demonstrate much compassion and emotional understanding towards those on either side of the coin, so to speak, whilst you also display an armor as a way to protect yourself from potential intruders, threats, or dangers. After all, who knows, right? Who knows? Maybe one slip up or stumble will lead to a fight, or to a tragic loss, or to a sorrowful moment, such as a friend getting into debt, or a parent falling sick, or a co-worker acting too big for their boots and then stabbing you in the back. Just basically here, who knows, Scorpio suns, what tricks people have up their sleeves, what plotting and scheming and sneaking people do whenever the lights are off, or whenever they're behind closed doors, or whenever they're at their wit's end, you know, when it feels like the end for them. You know, like I said earlier, given the circumstances, maybe you know all too well of the secrets and the disclosed information as a way to control, as a way to dominate. Maybe you know all too well of what humans are capable of and of the measures and the lengths that they are willing to go in order to get there, along with the measures and the lengths that humans will go in order to protect themselves. But yet, when it comes to you, you may also be aware of the measures and lengths that you're willing to go to as well in order to ensure these types of things. You may be aware of what you may be capable of given the circumstances. So this could be the likes of you pushing and fighting through a relationship to really make things work, for example. Or this could be you persevering through a really difficult, really hard time at work. Or this could be the likes of you moving in with someone to ensure your very survival. Like I said earlier, you're in touch with your failures and your successes due to how profound and intense they can be. So maybe you know full well what it's like to lose it all, what it's like to hit rock bottom, or what it's like to experience something so terrifying that your life depends on it. And I think it's these things that make you such compassionate people. And it's also these things that make you such a concerning force towards others and towards their life experiences. You're able to empathize on such a deep level because you know what it's like to be so close to the edge. You know from your living environment how stability and security can change in a second, resulting in chaos. In fact, it could be suggested that it's you, Scorpio suns, who have most likely went through harsh endings and really monumental beginnings that have really involved a lot of chaos. And so when you notice or recognize someone else going through something difficult, you might cut straight through the BS and you get to the core of what you believe is the thing that needs to be addressed. And addressed quickly, might I add, and very directly with a lot of strength. None of this, maybe, what if? It's about piercing into the situation so that it can be dealt with, because if not, perhaps that difficult thing will only poison the minds and the emotions of those involved. So this could be the likes of you giving just clear-cut advice to a sibling or to a friend that you really feel deep down needs to hear that. Or this could be you fixing a situation just straight away, quickly. And the way I think this whole jump to action may come from a sort of fear, you know, it's like fear of losing stability at times. Furthermore, there's also a difficulty with finding a middle ground when it comes to you. It can be quite difficult for you to weigh things out or to view things objectively and rationally at times as well. So I'll give you some examples of what I mean. So maybe you discover a new piece of information, you know, something may come to light and it's perhaps quite an emotionally disturbing or shocking piece of information. Could be a news article, it could be an event that happened to someone that you know, or maybe you don't know. Whatever the case, you might respond by willfully and purposefully being in favor of or not being in favor of what that piece of information or what that particular thing is, or what it's kind of communicating. It's as if you become emotionally charged by what you're taking in, and depending on what you feel, you will identify with that feeling as you hold on to it with a very tight grip. And as you do hold on, you refuse to let go. As if, it's a sort of as if particular emotions have some type of power and control over you. It can be really difficult for you to see outside of that kind of single focus that you may have, especially when you're being emotionally impacted. So perhaps, for example, someone pisses you off or is very disrespectful, and so you will not act all nice, you will not act all sweet as the way to keep the peace. No, keeping the peace in your eyes is like, why do that? Because every fiber of your being is saying, no, get the hell away from me. There's no finding a middle ground here, because in your mind, that person is quite possibly a complete a-hole. And to be frank, you've probably experienced more than enough cruel and distasteful people in your lifetime, so you're probably very good at spotting a shady fake person from a mile away. But then on the other side of this, however, maybe someone shows you love. They show you admiration and appreciation. Sure, you might start off by probing into or reading into things, but after trust and loyalty has been established, you will most likely commit fully with all of your heart. to that particular person or to those people, whether this be a lover or some friends or even some family members. And when you do commit, you do clearly and strongly demonstrate your love and your desire and your admiration. But again, there's no middle ground as you pour everything that you can give into that particular relationship or situation. However, it's still solid and reliable foundations that must be built and established first. There must be honesty, even if that honesty comes with things that maybe you or someone else might not like to hear. None of this walking on eggshells, none of this being nice to your face only to say something totally different behind your back. You want the raw, the real, and the true. The following on from this point, I think your ego is able to handle these types of things really well. Probably much better in comparison to other people. Your ego is able to hear things like, hey, that thing you did, it upset me. Or hey, I messed up here. Or hey, you know what? I'm actually not feeling this right now. Your ego can handle these types of situations because, I mean, you get it. You get it. You get that everyone can go through stages of misery and sorrow and anger and jealousy. That people can experience times where they're up all night, you know, they're worried, they're stressed out. And you also get it that perhaps humans are very complex. And what I was trying to say earlier here, you have observed people's good side and their bad sides, their beautiful side, their ugly side, their light side, their shadow side. Yeah, times whenever they're high and times whenever they're low. And you can sort of recognize these very distinctive differences, possibly because you recognize them so much within yourself. You can hear pretty clearly, pretty loudly, what someone is saying whenever they express either of these sides to themselves. So if someone says, you know, I'm really struggling here, and they're upfront about it, you can empathize, you will really hear them out. But then likewise, if someone says, I am feeling great, I'm feeling amazing today, yeah, they're being honest and open about that, you will also sort of be really happy for them as well. However, now this is a big however, if you ever pick up on lies or deception, where someone is showing you something above the surface and then they're hiding something below the surface, your ego will not stand for it. Your ego will protect itself by, for example, rejecting that person or that situation, or by getting away from it. Or it may protect itself by even jumping right into the heart of the situation in order to kind of figure out what the heck is going on there. Yeah, you have very little patience for dishonesty or for shallow, phony, fake behaviors. So if you ever sense such behaviors from someone or from a situation, you will play things very safe. You will not give too much away. I mean, this could be a situation in work that, okay, sure, you can't escape, but whilst you're there, you will be very strategic and you will be very clued into what's going on. And honestly, you're most likely the types of people or the type of person who must know what is happening, both above the surface and below the surface anyway. You will not stand it if you don't. So in this respect, honesty is key, because without it, there's no trust, and then with no trust, what's the point? Yeah, there's certainly no surprising you on your birthday or on any occasion for that matter, Scorpio Sun individuals. There's no keeping things from you. And if there's one set of people who will find out the truth or sort of unravel what is hidden, it is you, Scorpio Suns and Moons and Risings. After all, you are probing investigators. Though when it comes to you specifically, Scorpio Sun individuals, you might take immense pride, a lot of pride in your findings and your discoveries. You might rejoice whenever you figure out something that's bugging you, or you might brag to others about how you're so good at finding things out with ease. This kind of reminds me of my Scorpio friend, and she shared the story of how she would always just find the Christmas presents that were in her family home growing up, and she feels really good about herself that it's like, yeah, I was able to do that. And also, if at any time you feel as if something is hidden from you or kept a secret from you, you might drive yourself mad. Your ego might not rest until you unravel what it is. And when it comes to expressing your ego, it's pretty intense. It's passionate. So you might look others right in the eye whenever you are talking, for example, or you might really just hold a lot of focus on people whenever you're conversing with others. Or you might give a very strong hug. You know, you'll hug your loved ones really, really hard. It reminds me of my Scorpio brother. His hugs are crushing. Though on the other hand, as I was saying earlier, if trust is not built, if it's not established, your ego might express itself in a protective or suspicious way. So you might challenge others on their intentions, or you might clearly show from your body language that you're just not interested. Though furthering on from this point, perhaps your father displayed similar qualities growing up. So maybe he was overprotective, or maybe he was overbearing at times, as he would place a lot of focus and a lot of attention on you. Then again, he could have been the type of father who really spoiled you in this respect and gave you everything that you wanted. It's almost like he was in a way handing over a lot of his so it's as if he was handing over a lot of his financial power to you. But then again, there could have been a situation where he was focusing a lot of energy on you as a way to make sure that you were keeping out of trouble. Or quite perhaps he was secretive and would often hide how he was feeling. Maybe you could pick up on these things a little bit, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it, which is quite interesting because you yourself, Scorpio Sun individuals, you might be quite secretive, whilst you demand that others tell you their secrets. So it's this whole notion of you demanding that others let you in, or that they tell you the truth at all times, but yet you yourself find it difficult to let people into your world. You yourself struggle to trust others. Maybe you couldn't trust your father fully, or maybe he pushed on this whole idea that others can't be trusted, or that the world is a scary place, or that even you're not trustworthy. Or perhaps your father was always letting you and your family down, possibly due to his own failures and shortcomings. Then again, perhaps for some of you, there was a death of a father figure whenever you were growing up, or maybe you felt like he could have done more, but he often would roll over and admit defeat. Maybe you viewed him as quite weak for such things, and so you thought, yeah, I don't trust you, nor do I respect you. Perhaps it's these themes connected with trust that manifest themselves into your relationships with others. Or maybe there were themes of power struggles, power plays between you and a father figure that led to strong conflicts and disagreements. And if you didn't trust nor respect him, then maybe you wouldn't listen to his guidance or to his commands and direction. Then again, perhaps for others of you, maybe he portrayed these compassionate and investigative qualities that I mentioned earlier. Perhaps he would probe into your life quite a bit, but he was also extremely compassionate. On the other hand, maybe you and your father went through many transformations together, where every blow up or head-to-head confrontation will lead to an understanding or to a newfound insight, Or maybe things may have been quite hot and cold even between you and your father. Though whatever the case may be here, maybe with time and with age, you grow to really empathize with his position, and maybe you realize just how full his heart was for you, or maybe you grow to understand why he acted in certain ways, or why it was that he was really trying to protect you. And I also think that with time and with maturity, you grow to become more trusting and less suspicious of others. Maybe you start to learn how to let people close to you in on your inner world. Though whichever way this plays out for you, it's as if many revelations come to light when it comes to the relationship with your father, but likewise many revelations come to light when it comes to trust and vulnerability, and also when it comes to closeness and intimacy. So this could be the likes of you unraveling something difficult from the past, resulting you in a spouse becoming closer, or this could be you coming to terms with something that happened to you that you didn't have control over, resulting in some form of growth and a renewal, such as establishing healthier relationship. Now, the last thing that I want to mention, of course, is your creativity. Your creativity, Scorpio Suns, can be dark and eerie and deep, but it can also display those euphoric highs that you seek as well. Basically, you're typically someone who seeks to truly feel something on either side of the coin very intensely. So you might intentionally listen to a sad song that makes you cry, just makes you pour your heart out, or you might intentionally listen to a particular rave song or something that's a bit more upbeat that takes you high, really, really high in the sky. Though the same thing here of what I'm saying from these extremes can perhaps be applied to the likes of movies or books or art and so on. And you may take things to the extreme as well. So you might have a period where you're reading loads of books in one day, but then you go months without reading a single one. Or you might cook all of these creative, delicious meals, and then you go through weeks of ordering takeaway foods. Yeah, like I said earlier, there's no middle ground when it comes to you. Essentially though, when it comes to your creativity, you need to feel something, and if you don't, you might just write it off instantly. So it's probably very good idea to know exactly what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like in this respect. Yeah, there's certainly no doing a half-assed job when it comes to you, Scorpio Sun individuals, because, well, you will go all in. And if you don't, it might be an indication that you're just not feeling it. Now, some astrologers do like to refer to the sun sign as the person in which we are striving to become. And so in your case, Scorpio Suns, perhaps you are striving to become this highly passionate, all or nothing, deeply emotional individual. Now, before we do move on to the moon, certainly make sure that you are locating the house placement of the sun within the chart, because this is going to show you the area of life that this energy is playing out in. And also remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise along with other energies that may influence that sun energy. Alright, so moving on to the moon in Scorpio. So I'm going to show some keywords on the screen, read through those, take them in. Now, what does this mean if these keywords are being combined with the sign or the archetype of Scorpio? Well, it creates an energy of protection and compassion based on emotional reactions and emotional needs. It also creates an energy of unconscious moodiness and self-destruction, along with unconscious power, control, and compulsions. Likewise, it creates an energy of intense emotional needs and of probing support, and also of transformative emotional patterns and cycles. Though what does this specifically say about you if you were born with this moon sign? So meaning that you have the moon in Scorpio natally. Well, it suggests that within your family home, there was a lot of turbulent changes that might have made you and your family very uncomfortable, possibly unsafe and unprotected. Perhaps your very survival was threatened by outside intruders or by imposters. So this could have been the likes of your abusive stepmother coming into the picture here. Or this could have been the likes of a sister's manipulative boyfriend, or even, for example, your father's friends betraying him by taking his money, or something like your mother being deeply hurt by someone she thought that the family could trust. So from these examples, I hope you get where I'm coming from. Basically, it's as if people outside the home couldn't be trusted, and it's as if anyone who stepped into your house would let you and your family down in some way. Then again, maybe you specifically here, Scorpio moon individuals, you were the ones who were emotionally impacted by these dangers. Maybe you harbor many complex emotions and feelings towards these types of situations. Maybe you find it very difficult to let go of past attacks that happened towards you and your family, or quite possibly you find it hard to let go of past attacks towards you from your family or from others just overall towards you. I mean, it could very well be suggested that you've had quite a few run-ins with family or with family members or with just other people, and when you have these run-ins, things can get very, very heated, especially given that you aren't typically the types of people to admit you're wrong whenever you feel like you are right or whenever you feel like you've been slighted or hurt. You can be quite stubborn in this respect when you're impacted emotionally, but you can also be very determined to stand your ground and not be walked over. Though on the other hand, perhaps these things more come about after a build-up. For example, maybe a relative starts getting on your nerves by doing something over and over and over again. Maybe they're poking fun at you or saying really mean things. They're just winding you up, right? Sure, you might be pretty patient, or you might act like these things aren't really getting to you above the surface, but then one day you crack, right? You have had enough of their crap, and so what you do is you lash out. You give them a piece of your mind. You may even cut them off if you need to, depending on the situation. And whenever you are tipped over the edge, Scorpio moon individuals, there's no making sense of it. There's no sort of using logic or reason to think things through. It's this whole attitude of, no, you've pissed me off, so now you're gonna get a taste of your own medicine. You've had this coming for a long time now. So this same scenario that I'm talking about, it can be applied to a co-worker, a manager, towards even your own mother if she pushes you far enough. Though speaking of your mother, perhaps the relationship that you had with her is a complex one. Maybe at times she displayed hot and cold acts of affection and care and support towards you, or maybe she would go into hiding during times whenever she felt hurt or slighted, or during times whenever just things became far too much for her to handle. Maybe you perceived her emotions as quite extreme or as overly up and down with very little room for balance. Quite possibly the intensity of such extremes led to you questioning her or misunderstanding her. I suppose, you know, this is one difference between the Sun in Scorpio and the Moon in Scorpio. The Sun in Scorpio with the extremes or with the lack of a middle ground, it's more connected with that ego, with the self-expression, as previously talked about. But with the Scorpio moons, this lack of finding balance or a lack of a middle ground is more connected with those emotions that you feel. Though kind of going back to the mother situation here, maybe at times your mother would tell you you are my baby, I love you so much. But then other times she would be so mad, like furiously mad at you because of something that you did. Then again, maybe for some of you, the relationship you have with your mother actually instilled in you emotional strength, emotional resilience, along with the ability to rise up and overcome. Or perhaps the amount of care and support that you received from her was so full, it was so full, that these things will impact you for the rest of your life. So this whole idea of her doing everything in her power, everything in her control to shelter you and to keep you safe, to protect you. Though on one hand, maybe some of you were smothered, you know, it's this very overprotected by your mother. But then on the other hand, maybe others of you were really pushed by your mother to gain some sense of control of your life. Though to be fair, could be that there was such a fluctuation between the two of these. Perhaps whilst a part of her didn't want to lose you and wanted to keep you safe from the big bad world, the other part of her wouldn't be able to forgive herself if she didn't teach you how to stand on your own 2 feet. Maybe your mother was or is quite conflicted when it comes to these two things within herself. Or maybe you yourself, Scorpio moons, you at times are conflicted when it comes to these things. And what I further mean by this is that within you, there may exist this part of you that clings tightly onto safety, onto comfort, onto what makes sense to you. But then there's this other part of you that wants so badly to push forward, to do the thing, to get out of your comfort zone in a way, to transform, to change. But yet you might be terrified of what is on the other side of your comfort zone, scared of what may happen if you let go, or if something you've been holding on to for so long, you know, if that's gone. And so whenever you change or whenever you transform, you leave this sort of older version of yourself behind you. Then again, there may be times when you refuse to change without a fight first. And there's certainly no coming along to tell you that you must or that you should change either. You must come to the conclusion yourself. And this exposes another difference between the sun and the moon in Scorpio, because whilst the sun in Scorpio is more aware of their ability to renew themselves, their ability to release something old in order for something else to come in its place. And also, Scorpio suns might be more willing to welcome the change. I mean, if it means especially that the ego is gaining something. But then with the moon in Scorpio, on the other hand, you individuals might be more unconscious. Scorpio moons, you might hold more onto the old and onto what is comfortable and safe, onto the old ways of doing things, because it's a form of protection. Likewise, I think you remember past attacks more than Scorpio suns because it's your emotions and your memories coming into play here. Yeah, Scorpio suns might be more forgiving than you Scorpio moons. So to be fair, perhaps it depends on the situation. I mean, if a situation hurts a Scorpio sun's pride or bruises their ego, there may not be any coming back from that in certain situations. Still though, it's you Scorpio moons who are more likely to dwell, I think. You're more likely to brood, to linger in your disparity and your sorrow and your misery. And there's also a strong protection here of your emotions, a shielding of your emotions. And so in this respect, it can be very, very difficult to get close to a Scorpio moon individual. Probably more so than Scorpio suns. Though to be quite frank, maybe some of these things that you've been through have deeply impacted many of you Scorpio moon individuals. So much so that you completely close yourself off from everyone. And if you ever feel hurt or betrayed by someone, especially by someone you thought you could trust, there's just no going back from that. And if you ever do reconnect or rectify the situation, it'll take a very long time to rebuild that trust, if ever. Then again, maybe you'll forever be wary or suspicious from there on. Now, on the other hand, you are most likely the types of people who support those you care about and you love with so much passion and a lot of intensity. So if a friend comes to you for help or comfort, you will most likely focus on them greatly, really concentrate on them. You'll take the time to listen and empathize and understand, but you will also not be afraid to tell them how you feel about the situation. You may even motivate them and strongly encourage them and push on them and just provide them with things that even, you know what, maybe they don't want to hear, but it's like, no, you need to hear this. Then again, maybe growing up, there were times whenever you struggled with this type of stuff, especially if you ever felt jealous or possessive of someone or something. Or even especially if other people try to assert their jealousy or their possessiveness onto you. See, there may have been times whenever you would manipulate or control a situation to ensure that you gain something from it, or as a way to ensure that you were the one in power, whilst also intensely demanding that others never leave your side. Sound familiar to what I was saying earlier? So maybe growing up, right, just an example, maybe growing up, a relative or a friend or a lover, they would come to you and they would say, hey, you know what, I really need your support right now. But out of fear, you would support that person based on your safety and your protection. So this could have been the likes of a friend coming to you for support about a particular relationship, a relationship situation, but maybe you are afraid as a Scorpio moon individual of losing your friend to this particular relationship. You may then manipulate the situation as a way to control things. But you also have to keep in mind with this that these behaviors are unconsciously happening. Now, I know that this may be a bit of a petty example, but whenever you're young, these types of things, they can happen. Now, as I say, you may not be aware of your emotional need for power and control, but then likewise, I also think these types of situations may more so be connected to your younger years, okay? So I think whenever you do make sense of your unconscious obsessions and your unconscious compulsions and emotional blockages that may result in these types of behaviors in a way, whenever you kind of bring them to light, make sense of them a little bit, I think you're less likely to engage in these types of behaviors. Though I suppose another thing here is, well, other people doing these types of things towards you, you may get this internal response within yourself that kind of knows, oh, no, I'm getting a bad feeling about this person or this situation. Yeah, you may be very well connected in that way with, you know, those intuitive pings and urges and hunches that you get from others. So there is that part of it here where you can sense possibly when people are sort of projecting onto you. Now, another thing I want to mention here is that you may not be overly aware, or you may be unconscious of your tendency to self-destruct. So this idea of ruining relationships and friendships, that may play out within your life, and especially relationships and friendships that can actually be very transformative and regenerative for you. Likewise, you might engage in toxic behaviors such as self-medicating or overloading yourself with legal or illegal substances. Seriously, whenever you feel low, Scorpio moon individuals, you go really low into a black hole almost where nothing exists, or at least that's what it feels like. And if you sink into this headspace, it can be very, very difficult to get you out. Yeah, you Scorpio moon individuals might get caught up in some seriously heavy emotional cycles and patterns, and you may not tell a single soul about what's going on. And it could also be suggested that your mother was the same or similar. Maybe she was or is emotionally unstable, or maybe she was or is very sensitive. Could also be a suggestion of some of you losing your mother due to death from a very young age. Though whatever the case may be, you may look back and you may think, you know what, my mother was a fighter. She has went through a lot emotionally, and she's taught me to keep fighting, to get back up and keep trying. And so in this respect, Scorpio moon individuals, well, you know what, you're typically the ones who transform and change due to this internal voice. It's like this internal part of you that says, I can do this. I can do this. Then again, maybe for others of you, you need a wake-up call. Maybe it takes for something to happen before you realize, oh yeah, I need to change something here, because this emotional cycle, this emotional pattern that I'm in, it's not working very well for me. And to be honest, for some of you, you may transform kicking and screaming. Though, regardless of how you transform, whenever you do, it's a deeply emotional experience, and also a deeply psychological experience. You won't know yourself after. Basically, it's you Scorpio moon individuals who transform yourselves from the inside out. And when you do, you share some major insights with others. After all, you've most likely ventured into some pretty heavy psychological stuff, which in turn can help you support others as well with their own heavy psychological stuff too. Therefore, could it be suggested that you're able to see more deeply into others, to how deeply you probe into and investigate your own emotions? Just a suggestion, along with those psychological patterns and compulsions and so on. Yeah, it's like this internal radar that never sleeps. Though to be fair, maybe you Scorpio moons, you struggle to bring these things to light yourselves. It can be challenging, especially given that they are unconscious, like I said. But with support and with help, maybe you learn how to become more aware of them. And whenever you do, you can become some of the most psychologically and emotionally profound and impactful people who are very dynamic, very magnetic, and extremely determined and persistent, especially when it comes to how it is that you show emotional support towards other people. Maybe you make sense of your emotions and you maybe learn how to control them rather than your emotions having a lot of power over you. Or maybe you can direct your emotions into people and situations and experiences that are very meaningful and very life-changing for you. Though the last thing I just want to talk about is, well, your emotional needs. And I think a part of your emotional needs are strongly tied in with intimacy and closeness for you within your relationships, whether this be a romantic relationship or a platonic one. Maybe honesty and trust and commitment must be established in order for you to feel that intimacy and that closeness, which of course then can be linked to those emotional needs of yours. But whenever you are going through something very emotional, and especially something that's challenging emotionally, you may prefer to deal with things on your own. Now, for you, you may prefer to hide away, lock yourself away from other people, not let anybody in, or you may do this thing where you don't want to let on that other people maybe have hurt you, but yet you are screaming on the inside, you know, all this emotion is just boiling up within you. Though I think, again, going back to honesty and trust and commitment, whenever these things are established with others, I think then you learn to sort of bring out these emotions or let people in on what you're going through a lot better. And likewise, I also think that sensuality and sexual chemistry, these components are very necessary when it comes to your romantic relationships. And so if there are difficulties with these things within your romantic relationships, you may have the tendency of just not really feeling connected. So in this respect, conversations over these things may be really, really important, or just finding someone who gets you in this way would be really, really important. Now, before we do move on to the ascendant, the rising, make sure that you are locating the placement of the moon, because this is going to show the area of life that this energy is playing out within, but then also aspects. Remember aspects, because aspects can show you any difficulties that may arise, along with other energies that may influence that moon energy. Okay, so moving on to the Scorpio rising, the Scorpio ascendant. Got some keywords here on the screen. Make sure that you read through those keywords and you take them in. But then what does this mean if these keywords are combined with the sign or the archetype of Scorpio? Well, it creates an energy of a compelling, magnetic and dynamic physical appearance, along with an energy of secretive, under the radar mannerisms and movements, as well as an energy of a deeply transformative life path, of death and rebirth cycles of self-discovery, of protective yet profound views of the world, and likewise it creates an energy of hot and cold energy levels and of a reinforced part of the self that is probing, concerned and focused. But what does this specifically mean about you if you were born under this rising sign, meaning that you have a Scorpio rising or ascendant natally? Well, it suggests that you see the world through this lens of what there is to investigate, what there is to figure out. As if everywhere you look, there is something to read into. Whether this be a conversation you're having with a friend, or a product that you just want to buy, or a relationship that's just started. Basically, when you look out into the world, Scorpio risings, you probe into the many layers of humans and items and situations and so on. So due to these things, you aren't easily tricked, nor are you easily fooled, and you don't let things slide either. Even if others think whatever it is not a big deal. Likewise, you make sure to read between the lines rather than simply taking other people's word for it, or rather than accepting things at face value. Yeah, it's very difficult for hidden information to get past you, Scorpio risings, because somehow you just know based on how you feel. Now, this is not to say that people never do or have gotten hidden information past you, because I think that throughout your life journey, many people have managed to weasel their way into your life or make commitments they can't keep, or show you a false version of themselves. Many people have managed to justify their actions by making you out to be a bad guy, by making you out to be the villain, which, by the way, there is a suggestion here of you being labeled as the villain, when in actuality it's others projecting their dark side onto you. Still, however, it's you, Scorpio risings, who have come up against people throughout your journey, so up against people and situations that haven't been healthy or good for you. And so growing up, maybe you became aware or are becoming aware of how to protect yourself, how to defend yourself from such imposters and intruders. Maybe for you, it's important to know where to draw the line with others, how to clearly state when something isn't working, or how to assert your personal power into a particular situation that you need to assert your personal power into. But before you reach such realizations, maybe your life path is full of these profound transformations that contribute to what you learn. For example, whenever it comes to relationships, maybe you recognize how stagnant and how firm-footed you can be, which can lead to feelings of being stuck in a rut. Maybe you don't realize how comfortable you can get when it comes to your one-on-one relationships. Maybe this relationship, it comes to a profound, distinctive end. So this transition or this transformation within itself, it can bring with it newfound insights. It can help you evolve and change, and it can bring with it a type of renewal for you. Then perhaps with great investigation, you realize, oh, I seem to be attracting these types of partners into my life, these types of people. Or maybe you realize, oh, there's something that I'm doing that's keeping me in this repetitive cycle. Basically, with that probing and investigating outlook of yours, you can arrive to many conclusions and decisions. You can get to the core of a matter, as well as the reasons for why you or others do the things that you or them do. However, these realizations and these transformations aren't straightforward, nor are they simple or to the point. Things may be highly complex and infuriating at times too, even though you may want for things to be more clear-cut and to the point. The reason for why things may be so complex is because, well, I mean, for one, humans usually are, but also because suppressions and unconscious tendencies are coming into play here. So this could be a situation where you're trying to tell a parent about something that you can clearly see, but they can't see. Or this may be a situation where a friend or a lover is partaking in behaviors that are kind of bad for them. And so you, as a Scorpio rising individual, you see it all. You see it all too well, but maybe the lover or the particular friend is just in denial. They don't see it. They simply can't see the thing that you're warning them about. Then again, they might see it, yet they may choose not to do anything about it anyway. Either way though, it's these types of situations that can drive you crazy. It can make your insides just scream. You know, it's like screaming, look at this, why are you not seeing this? I can see it so clearly. I mean, after all, right, your view of the world is investigation. It's reading into things. You're able to pick up on those things that a lot of people do not see. The following on from this point, you're typically someone who pierces into others with a focus, a very strong focus and a concerned eye. You manage to pick up on other people's hidden truths, along with any potential blockages and weaknesses that they themselves might not even be aware of within themselves. Perhaps throughout your younger years, you learn how to do this because of events and situations that were happening around you or even to you. Maybe you became up close and personal with danger and with threats of safety. Or maybe you learned how to become a type of lie detector as a means of protection and survival. Or maybe you come from a background where emotions were very intense, where people acted out in very all or nothing attitudes, where situations would just change so profoundly out of nowhere and you just had no choice in the matter. Then again, perhaps you find it difficult to see into your own suppressions and unconscious tendencies, some of which involving the likes of interacting, communicating and conversing with others, perhaps as you're grasping other people's psyches. You're quite fickle and flaky when it comes to your own. For example, you might laugh something off that might actually be very, very important to look at, or you might use logic or wit as a way to redirect a question or a statement away from you and onto somebody else. You can be kind of cunning in that way a little bit. Or you might be quite good at just, yeah, turning things around if you ever feel threatened, or during times whenever you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it. Though I would also say, on the other hand, maybe some of these unconscious tendencies, they are tied to your mind and to your learning potential. They're tied in with your mind and learning. So maybe feeling out of control mentally scares you, terrifies you. This whole thought of losing one's mind is something that you strive to avoid. Or maybe just not knowing the facts can scare you, can make you feel out of control. See, it's you who seeks to feel in control within your environment at all times. So when people come to you with their problems and with their issues or with their concerns that are just mind-boggling, so to speak, you may freak out. Or when you come up against certain situations that you just can't make logical sense of, again, it's just a total meltdown. You might explode whenever your mind is taking on too much, or where it's like, I've had enough. I've had enough. And so in this respect, perhaps you strive to keep a strong mind. Maybe you've even had certain life scares in relation to your mind or even to your head, such as you getting into an accident or doing something impulsive and dangerous and reckless. Whatever the case here, those Scorpio risings, there's something about the power of your mind and how you use it as a way to ensure you survive. And also as a way to investigate and figure things out, like I said at the beginning. Therefore, perhaps your life path is deeply psychologically and mentally challenging. and your mindset is continuously going through these cycles and these transformations. No wonder you become so good at reading others in this respect. Then again, maybe such transformations are forced upon you, possibly resulting in feelings of powerlessness and a lack of self-control as well. I mean, there is that. Maybe some of you have been through some pretty heavy stuff throughout your life, the type of stuff that keeps you up at night, or maybe for others of you, you grew up surrounded by grief and sorrow and pain, and again, feeling overpowered. Maybe your survival was threatened in some way, or maybe the early stages of your lives felt more dry and cold and more dark. But then the older you get, the more you grow, the more you age, I think you may come out of these stages with profound insights and wisdom to share with the world. These discoveries that can make you highly compassionate people. But at the same time, they can also make you people who see through the BS and into the heart of any situation. You grow to say things as they are. You grow to be direct and blunt and honest and bold within your everyday tasks and interactions with others. Sure, you might have felt powerless as a child, but when you tap into your personal power and you direct your life with courage and bravery, you evolve into a mighty force where other people will not be able to say so much as boo to you without getting away with it, basically. Seriously, I wouldn't want to get on the bad side of a Scorpio rising person who accepts themselves, because especially a Scorpio rising individual who has battled with their own inner demons, who's done that inner work, because they will most likely refuse to shy away or back down whenever they believe that no, they are in the right. So I guess in a way, it's you Scorpio risings that are learning how to trust yourselves, how to be honest and truthful when it comes to your core values and your life path. Now, don't get me wrong, this is most likely not going to be a big one big aha moment. There may be many, but also, as I was saying earlier, with every transformation, there's a newfound insight, there's new realizations. But still, perhaps it could be suggested that the life path of a Scorpio rising is that of learning to trust and to be honest with themselves. So this could be something as simple as making a decision and sticking to it, or this could be something as big as taking a completely new career path and trusting in the process with that. And oh my gosh, whenever you do commit to something, you can be so focused and persistent. It's just getting to the commitment stage that may be the difficult part. Then again, maybe it's your investigative outlook that can help you get there. Now, some astrologers do associate the Ascendant with the life path and the Sun with the person in which we are striving to become. So if you do have a Scorpio rising, look to see where your Sun sign is for more information into that whole idea of the person you're striving to become. But when it does come to the Ascendant or the rising sign, maybe the life path of you Scorpio risings is, yes, it's that of honesty and trust, but maybe it's also that of experiencing deep and profound transformations. And maybe your transformations, no matter how big or small, they shape your view of the world. They shape your identity. They shape how you view yourself. Now, with that being said, I also think it's a good idea to keep in mind the locations of the chart rulers for you Scorpio risings, and your chart rulers are both Pluto along with Mars. So yeah, look to see where both Pluto and Mars are located within the chart, because these placements are going to provide you with more insight into these transformations that I'm talking about. Though I would say, especially, you know, with Pluto, that's more connected with those inner transformations. And then in the case of Mars, maybe that's more about where you direct your power. You know, it's where you do direct your energy. So as I say, look to the locations of both of these planets within the chart for more information. And likewise, I also think that these deep transformations that I'm talking about, they can play a role when it comes to your physical appearance and your overall direction. So following on from this, as I said earlier, your physical appearance may be magnetic, dynamic, compelling. So you might shock others when it comes to changes that you make to your body, for example. Could be the likes of a haircut, or you may shock people with a certain tattoo or a piercing that you have. Reminds me of my niece. She has a Scorpio rising and she had really, really long hair down to here, like pretty long basically. And she cut it really, really short and it completely shocked me. I kid you not, I was really, really surprised. But it's growing on me, it's growing on me. So even the way that you look at others, that's enough to make others go, whoa, oh my gosh. Basically, you might unintentionally make others feel a particular way from how you present yourself to the world. And at times you can use this to your advantage, but other times others might feel intimidated or a bit uncomfortable. And also, whenever you do radiate a certain sexual seductive aura, which you may have the tendency of doing, it might make others crazy about you. So specifically, of course, looking at whenever you get older and more into your later years, people may become very curious and interested in you whenever you radiate that sexual aura. Then again, I also think that you might attract people who become threatened by this side of you sometimes. So people may try to do certain things as a way to diminish you or get one up on you, for example, or they may try to control you as well. But if people do this, little do they know, they are barking up the wrong tree, because you will not tolerate this type of behavior from anybody. No, no, no. You are the one in control of yourself, Scorpio risings, nobody else. Then again, as I say, maybe these are things that you come to learn with time as well. After all, you have the tendency of attracting possessive partners, jealous partners, greedy partners, partners who are all take, money, money, money. The last thing I do want to talk about are your energy levels, because your energy levels can go to the extreme. So some days you may be on it, you're go, 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 do, giving it everything you've got, but then other days, you may just want to do absolutely nothing. You might go through stages where you're in complete overdrive, but then through stages where you just want to be dead to the world, especially when it comes to things like work and your day-to-day routines. You can go through periods of rapid, quick movements in order to achieve all your daily tasks and goals. And yeah, you can be very self-assertive in this respect, but just as much, you might burn out. Like I said, with the Scorpio suns and moons, there's little middle ground. And this little middle ground also applies to you, Scorpio risings. But specifically in your case, this is particularly shown through your line of work and through your everyday schedules. Though, what I also want to mention with this is it's important to look to your Mars sign in the chart for more information into energy levels and into drive and motivation, because Mars in the chart may tell a different story to what I'm saying, but it could also add to the story. But just keep in mind here, as I said earlier, Mars is one of your chart rulers. So yeah, this placement of Mars could show you where you direct your energy and your magnetic power. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my really long video all about the differences between the Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Moon and Scorpio Rising. Now, if you happen to have any of these placements, definitely let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. Like I said, I would love to hear your feedback on these topics. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button and also make sure that you give this video a like, remember, and I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!